It is 5:30, so we'll go ahead and convene the Wednesday, August 9th Planning Commission meeting. Ms. Bocino, will you please call roll?
Yes. Vice Chairman Miller,
Here.
Commissioner York,
Here.
Commissioner Mendel,
Here.
Commissioner Salazar Garza.
Here.
Commissioner Munoz,
Here.
Commissioner Matagi. He's here somewhere.
He's absent.
Oh, he's not here. Okay. Excuse me. Commissioner Lerma.
Here.
Commissioner Hedrick.
Here.
We have a quorum to conduct the meeting.
Okay, first item is item number 2, discussion and possible action, election of officers of the chairman and the vice chairman. Do we have any nominations for chairman?
Mr. Chairman.
I'll nominate Michael Miller.
Mr. Lerma?
I nominate Michael Miller for chair.
Okay.
I was wondering, wait a minute.
So was it Commissioner Mendel that, Commissioner, okay, I thought I heard something else.
I'll second it.
You don't need a second, you open the nominations, and then you take the nominations, and you close the nominations, and then you'll do a vote. You don't have to move.
Any
We're
other
just opening
nominations? I see none. I accept the nomination. Ruth, will you, or I guess all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now I will open up the nominations for the vice chairmanship. Commissioner Mandel?
I nominate Michael York for vice chairman.
Is there any other nominations? I see none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Congratulations, Mr. VC. And we'll move on to public comment. Ruth, would you like to read the rules?
Yes. Citizens will be allowed to attend and make public comments in person at City Planning Commission meetings. The public is invited to speak on any agenda item and any other items that pertain to the Planning Commission. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. If you choose to speak during this period, you will not be allowed to speak again when the specific item is being considered in order of the agenda. And we have a sign-in sheet, and I think everyone's had a chance to sign in. If you need to, we can add you. And you get 3 minutes. Thank you.
Is there anybody that would like to speak on any items not pertaining to any specific item? Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Garrett Dorsey, 2037 Sunnycrest. Just here again to just kind of talk about, I know we always hear things like pro-growth and pro-business, but I'm here to talk about pro-housing. So a lot of times we also hear things about the UDC and our overlays and our zoning. And again, I just kind of remind people that these things were designed to give guidelines. They're designed to help us guide the city in, the growth and stuff like that. But again, I remember when I sat, it was 18 years ago, on writing the first UDC, and we sat with a lot of different departments, Park and Rec and everything like that, and talked about what the city needed. And that was 18 years ago. And then since then, the UDC has been rewritten, I think, twice at least, and now it's in another version of being rewritten again. And again, we try to remind people that the UDC, along with all the other things, are designed to give us a pathway, but they're not black and white. We do need to remember that we're talking about pro-growth or pro-housing, and we need to look at ways of bringing other things. If Al was here, I'd say that we can't say the SA word, but we a lot of times look at San Antonio and the way that they design some of their new Rs, like they have R0. They have some zero lot line home programs and stuff like that. And these are designed to get higher density and bring construction and bring infill back to the downtown areas, or what I call sometimes the forgotten areas that nobody really wants to revitalize and rebuild. And this is where the UDC and some of our other programs the city has designed has been doing a really good job at helping bring back revitalization to these forgotten areas and looking at properties that are actually an eyesore to Corpus and bringing back housing and other type of things that could actually, and not just single family housing, but other type of housing programs that can really do a fantastic job. So I just want to remind y'all that when you're thinking and looking at some of the zoning issues, is to think outside the box. And remember, the UDC is a live document that can be tweaked and can be, massaged and changed over the years based on what Corpus Christi needs for housing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Would anybody else like to speak on any, I think I've got the sign-in sheet, but if anybody has any other comments not related to any individual items, I see none, so we'll close the public comment. Approval of absences, we have none. Approval of minutes, do I have any discussion or possibly a motion to approve the July 26, 2023 minutes?
I move that we approve the July 28th, July 26, 2023 minutes.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on. Public discussion, possible action by Camille Harris, fiscal year 23-24 capital improvement program budget.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Camille Terrace, Capital Improvement Program Manager. Yes, so I'm here, as I promised, 2 weeks since the 26th meeting. I received no questions or comments from you guys. Of course, I'm happy to answer if anybody has questions, but basically what I would ask is a motion to recommend the capital budget for fiscal year 24 to City Council from the Planning Commission.
Does anybody have any additional questions for Camille or comments before we open it up for a motion? I see none, so we will entertain a motion.
We need to open the public hearing.
Oh, sorry. And at this time, I will open the public hearing on item number 7 with regards to, or sorry, that's not 7. Item number 6. With regards to the capital improvement budget. Does anybody have any comments? I see none. I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of item 2 as presented.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much,
Any
and I hope you have a
opposed?
great short evening.
All right, thank you, Camille. Okay, we have the consent public hearing, discussion, possible action, items A, B, and C. We do have an abstention from Commissioner Hedrick. Is there any other items that need to be pulled for consideration?
Can we pull item 8, since it seems like we've got a lot of people speaking on that? And then, I don't want you to pull the item, but can we watch or get the brief presentation for item 7, because the links weren't working in the agenda packet, so some of us haven't seen that one.
Okay, so we'll individually read items number 7 and 8. How do we do this again? Do y'all want to, or do we want to go ahead and approve? Or actually, Mr. Orozco, could you read in items number 3, 4, and 6? For consent.
Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. Mark Orozco with Development Services, Planner 3. I'm going to be reading into record consent items 7A, plats, number 3 and 4, starting with number 3.
And 6, right?
And the time extension.
Oh, sorry, for
correct.
plats. Correct. Go ahead.
Starting with Holiday Addition, Block 1, Lots 1R and 2R, Units 2 through 9. And this is located on State Highway 358 and Paul Jones Avenue. Item number A4, plats, Azali Estates, Unit 1A, Block 5, Lot 28R, 29R, and 30R. This is a replat located north of Yorktown Boulevard and east of Carroll Street. Moving on to item 7B, time extension for Oso Ranch Unit 1. This is the final plat of 33.189 acres. The request is due to finalizing a wastewater reimbursement agreement. Staff does recommend approval of this 6-month time extension, and staff recommends approval of the plat. So they are meeting the TRC comments and Texas Local Government Code.
Okay, does any commissioners have any questions for staff on items 3, 4, and 6? Commissioner York.
Just a clarification on the time extension. I know it says 6 months. I thought we had changed it to a year, or is that just the original period is a year?
Yeah, the UDC is for 12 months, but we're acting on the applicant's request of 6 months.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? I'll open up the public hearing for items 3, 4, and 6. Does anybody have any comments or anything they would like to talk about on items 3, 4, and 6? I see none. I will close the public hearings on items 3, 4, and 6 and entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we pass items 3, 4, and 6 with the staff approval.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, Mr. Hedrick. Item number 5, please, Mark.
Item 7A, 5 under plats, Oso Creek Corner, Phase 1. It's a final plat of 103.02 acres. This is located south of Yorktown Boulevard between Starry Road and Oso Creek. The plat is meeting the TRC review comments and the Texas Local Government Code, and staff recommends approval for this item. At this time, staff can answer any questions there are.
All right, Commissioner York.
Just one comment I noticed, and I don't mind, I guess we can just put this in the motion to approve as amended maybe, but, or y'all can guide how we need to, but there was one spot on the plat where it notated Oso Parkway squeezes down to 60 feet. I know they worked out some deal where they have pedestrian easements and things, but the right-of-way is labeled under the street name as 80 foot, and then it's measured as 60 foot. So just wanted to make sure they correct that before it gets to recordation.
Okay.
Well, which is it? Because we looked at this from the...
It's a 60-foot right-of-way, and then they have pedestrian easements on the, that's where the school's at. Then there's a pedestrian easement for the sidewalk, and then I guess in the future, the adjacent landowner is going to dedicate when that property develops.
Mhm. They have it dimension 80 and then 60, but then on the on the Oso Parkway, they have it labeled as an 80 foot. Like they're saying per the UTP, basically.
The details are correct, the street sections and the dimensions, but there's just one label that was just incorrect in that one area.
Because we heard this case, and the request for 80-foot right-of-way was denied, or the 60-foot right-of-way was denied.
Right, subsequently, we have met with the applicant, and we believe what is presented this evening is meets the spirit of the ordinance with the additional pedestrian easement designation. The street section includes the 5-foot and the 8-foot sidewalks that were requested by Planning Commission. So we are recommending approval to move forward with this request. It is at 80 feet at the intersection with Yorktown. Partway it does neck down, and that's when the pedestrian easement comes into effect. So staff is recommending to move forward with this.
The label that Mr. George were probably referring to is along the center line, and that's per the UTP. But
It was on one of the plat sheets. If this is the whole plat, you can show it in there.
But
It's an easy correction.
It is dimensioned at both areas, at both ends.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's all I have.
With that, I'll open up the public hearing on item number 5. Would anybody like to speak on item number 5? I see none. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Do I need to put that in the motion, or can that just be corrected?
We can correct it prior to recordation.
Okay, so I can just
Put it in the motion.
put it in.
That's
Okay.
conditional.
Then I move we make a motion to approve item 5 as presented with one correction to the right-of-way label for Oso Creek, as discussed.
I second.
Oso Creek?
Oso Parkway, sorry.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Justin's back. Okay, moving on to item number C, zoning.
Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, Elena Buenteo with Development Services. The case before you is 072304, and the applicant is Eldon Sunrise LLC. The subject property is in District 2 and is located at 4922 Everhart Road. The rezoning request is from the RS6 Single Family District to the CN1 Neighborhood Commercial District. The subject property is approximately 0.17 acres in size. The purpose of the request is to allow for commercial uses, specifically a real estate office. The property falls within the Southeast Area Development Plan, last updated in July of '95. Future land use map calls for medium-density residential uses. Adjacent land uses are as follows. To the north, south, and west, we have commercial uses, zone CN1. To the east, uses are medium-density residential uses, zoned RS6. Regarding public notification, 27 notices were mailed inside the required 200-foot buffer. 5 notices were mailed outside the buffer. As of noon today, we received 1 notice in favor, 1 notice in opposition, opposition totaling 4.56%. That is an update from what it is that you received. Your reports were and presentation were as of Friday. The reason noted for the opposition was no need to increase our taxes, quote unquote. Regarding staff analysis, the proposed rezoning is inconsistent with the future land use map, which calls for medium density residential uses. However, you have to note that the area development plan for this area has not been updated since '95, and that update would in turn update the future land use map. The Everhart Road commercial corridor with zoning including CN1 and ON extends from Holly Road to Alameda Street on Everhart. Neighboring properties are zoned commercially, and the corridor has been under transition from residential to commercial since the early '80s. The adaptive reuse of the existing home to a real estate office is cited appropriately with 5-foot setbacks, and the existing structure is approximately 50 feet in distance from the rear property line. Should the site be cleared for new development, any proposed development footprint would be limited by existing development standards and addressing things such as noise generators. The proposed use is compatible with adjacent uses, encourages orderly growth, and addresses locational needs. The existing structure will require conversion for commercial use. During the permitting process, requirements such as landscaping and parking will be addressed. The site will require approximately 3 parking spaces with the proposed use. Should the applicant wish to park in the rear, a shared access agreement will be required with the neighboring properties, which again will be addressed during the permitting process. Here we are just setting the land use. Staff recommends approval from the RS6 to the CN1 and stands by for questions.
Does anybody have any questions for staff? Commissioner York.
Can you, it may have already been on the map, but what are the cross streets? What's this in between along Everhart?
Let's go back.
McCardle and
Do
Escady?
you know where the Selena Boutique was? It's right next door.
That's right, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. It's right
Okay.
next door.
Just a smidge away from SPID.
There's a handful of hairdressers, therapists, notary publics.
Psychic card readers.
Psychic card readers. Yeah, there's, as made evident by the adjacent CN1 zonings. Okay. All right, if there's no other questions for staff, I will open up the public hearing on item number 7. Would anybody wish to speak on item number 7? I see none. I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I motion that we pass item number 7, presented by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to item number 8.
Good evening, Commissioners. Again, for the record, Elena Buenteo with Development Services. The case before you is 0823-02. The applicant's Thanksgiving Homes, an affiliate of the Housing Authority. The subject property is located at 650 Osage Street and is in District 1. The requested rezoning is from the RS6 Single Family District to the RS6 Single Family District with a planned unit development overlay. The rezoning request is to allow for a single-family residential subdivision. The subject property is the site of the former Lozano Elementary. The property is located within the West Side ADP, which was last updated in February of '95. Future land use calls for medium-density residential uses. To the north, uses are commercial vacant, zone CG2. To the south and west, uses are low-density residential, zoned RS6. And to the east, uses are also low-density residential, plus some vacant sites zoned RS6. Public notification. Regarding the required public notification, 57 notices were mailed in the 200-foot buffer. As of today, as we were waiting, I calculated, we have 6 notices that were received in opposition. We have a total of 11.05% in opposition. 6 notices were mailed outside the notification area. Reasons for opposition include loitering, quoting, traffic concerns, density, and crime. The planned unit development proposes the following deviations from the RS6 Single Family 6 district standards. A minimum lot area of 3,000 square feet versus the 6,000 square feet required in the RS6. For blocks 3 and 4, a minimum street yard of 20 versus 25. Minimum open space of 20% versus 30%. The following are requested deviations to the driveway and parking standards. The front street yard impervious coverage shall not exceed 70% versus what the requirement is 50%. And the driveway approach may abut a lot line and flare return, or the flare shall be allowed to encroach over the property line by 5 feet. Requested deviations to the subdivision design include the following. You are required planting utility areas of 5 and 13 feet versus 6 feet on both sides. And generally, you have sidewalks that are required on both sides. They are requesting sidewalk on one side. Excuse me. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the future land use map and meets the criteria for planned unit development. Thanksgiving Homes selects infill lots for residential development in an effort to increase home ownership and help with the community's housing needs. The former Lozano Elementary site has been cleared for some time, excuse me, and is part of an older subdivision with medium-density residential uses. The applicant requested a PUD to allow flexibility in site development. The West Side ADP designated this area as a target area that should facilitate single-family developments through incentives such as reduced subdivision and development standards. As the west side is mostly built out, the site proves a great opportunity to renew interest in an area in need of restoration. One of the vision themes of the update to the West Side ADP that's currently going on is restoration and rebuilding of older neighborhoods, and this project would facilitate that theme. The PUD's appropriately sited and compatible with surrounding uses and districts. The infrastructure is there to support it. The site's going to include a private park and is near both transit and planned mobility infrastructures. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Commissioner York and then Salazar Garza.
Can you go back to the the table, not the deviations, the one about the improvements. It showed this one. So I noticed they're doing a 32-foot street. I assumed initially that was because you can actually fit on-street parking on both sides, but if you go to the slide that has the site plan, there's really no room for on-street parking. So I don't know, this may be a applicant question, but I don't know, I'm assuming this was worked out and reviewed by staff.
It was worked out and reviewed by the TRC. So the 28 feet is the minimum for the local street. Fire did have a concern, but then we went back and we reviewed UDC requirements, so it wasn't a deviation from what's required in the UDC.
I know it's not a deviation, but I'm just wondering why are they doing an extra 4 feet of pavement? These are smaller lots, so why not have more room off the street, and then they'd have more room for parking? Because we've done some of these infill developments like this where they're squeezing the lots, and then we've had a few where there was, people are squeezing these work trucks in here, and then they're hanging over the sidewalk or into the street. So if you can get a couple more feet in each lot, it seemed like it's at least worth asking.
Yeah, I think that would be part of the applicant's design, and they would be able to address that this evening. But again, the cross-section does show 8.5 feet planned on-street parking within that cross-section on either side.
And portions of the site also have an increased street frontage versus the 25, part of it will be 35 street frontage.
Right, okay. And the other question I had is these lots on the end here, they look like they have a smaller driveway. Do they have something in the PUD language that requires the 20-foot? I know they still have to go by code, but does that fit their design to fit a 20-foot setback to the garage for lots 1, 2, and 3?
They did not ask for a deviation,
Okay.
but the applicant is here.
Commissioner
That's all I got.
Salazar Garza?
Some of the questions, but I think one of them is, how long has this property been vacant like this?
Oh, dear Lord. I am not sure how long Lozano has been cleared. It's quite some time. As I drove through the neighborhood, it has developed trees, grass that is maintained, but is empty.
No, I'm just saying, 'cause
If you recall, several years ago, the council had authorized the sale of many of these neighborhood parks, which have been utilized for housing projects, infill housing projects. So this may be one of those.
This is a previous site of Lozano Elementary.
I'm sorry, I stand corrected. But we have had this type of infill development with our parks as well.
no, I'm just
that,
saying, I'm
had been
familiar with this
sold.
because being that I'm from District 1, we don't have a lot of new land that we can have developers go and start off from scratch. We have to redevelop what's been sitting there for sometimes 20 to 50 years. So therefore, I just think this is something that is a great idea, according to how they're going to be, the developer will be presenting it. And,
Right.
you know,
And I know that with the school districts, when they vacate structures, they typically will demolish. And, that's to keep down, vagrancy and those types of behaviors. So it probably has been cleared for some time.
Okay, all right, that's fine, thank you.
All right, thank you. So with that, I will open the public hearing, unless any other commissioners have any questions. I'll open the public hearing on item number 8, and as is customary, would the applicant like to go first or last? Last. Okay. All right, so we have a sign-in sheet, so we'll be going in that order. The first speaker is Israel Suarez. And Mr. Suarez, if you'll just state your name and address for the record, please.
Excuse me. My name's Israel Suarez. I'm the property owner of 633 Osage. Although I still live in the city, I do not live at that property. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not a public speaker, so please bear with me. I had questions. When they send these notices out, to me, it's nothing but letters and numbers. I have no idea what's going on. And forgive my French because I'm, like I say, I'm not a public speaker and I'm
Okay, just don't cuss.
I'm trying not to, okay? But the research that I've done, well, there's a couple of things. On here, on the notice of public hearing, this and that, the sign that's posted, it says RS6 to RS 4.5 PUD. The letter I got, RS6 to RS6 something PUD. So I'm like, what's going on, you know? Anyways, I talked to some people, and I'm all for improving the neighborhood. I mean, nothing's going to stay the same. I would like to see this property, if housing is going to be developed there, that it's going to be developed pretty much to mimic the housing and the lots that are on the other side of the street. On the Osage Street, the lot size is 7,479. It says nothing about how big the lots are going to be, but I understand it's going to be really small lots. It tells me nothing about how many houses are going to be there, but from what I get from hearsay, they're going to put like 30 houses there. Well, I'm thinking 30 houses in Lozano Elementary? That's going to bring what? Thanksgiving homes, they were on TV. Three-bedroom house, this and that. Well, that's 60 people. If the people that do move in there are married to begin with, that's 60 people that have a kid. That's 90 people that have 2 kids. You know, just do the math. In that small of an area, jamming in that many people, it's not going to work. I mean, it's going to look great for the first 4, 5, 6 years. 10 years down the line, that neighborhood's going to be worse than what it is today, okay? Crime is going to go up because of that. Okay, lot size is a big concern to me. The street width, that's another big concern to me. I know you guys want more bang for the buck, this and that. Forgive me, I'm a retired firefighter. You all have a subdivision over here on Saratoga and Rod Field, comes together. You can't, when I say engine, I mean fire truck. When I say truck, I mean a ladder truck. You can't get an engine through those streets without barely scraping the car next to you when there's people parked all over the place. You get over here, so I don't know how big the street's going to be, but I want to ensure that if there's going to be houses there, that the streets are wide enough with parking on both sides that you're going to be able to get a fire engine or a fire truck through there with no problem. I mean, I know here in the city, and you probably heard it before, you've heard that the streets are getting smaller and smaller for some reason, or maybe the fire trucks, fire engines are getting bigger and bigger. I would imagine both. So that's one of my concerns there, is the width of the streets. The street location, I saw briefly up here how it curves onto Osage. Well, that's going to bring a lot of traffic right there at that intersection of Baldwin and Osage, to tell you the truth, right there by there's a Mexican restaurant right there, and it's probably great for the Mexican restaurant and the Little Caesars because people are going to be over there, you know, 5 hot and ready. Okay, fire department access. Okay, these houses, from what I understand, are going to be so close together that they're going to have to put firewalls because they are built so close together. Another thing here, barbecue. I don't know if you're going to have a set place or not, but the fire code says you cannot have solid fuel cooking within 10 feet of any combustible structure. Are they going to even be able to comply with the fire code if somebody wants to go out and say, hey, let me barbecue some burgers? I mean, to me, it seems like you're jamming so much stuff in such a small place that is, to me, it's doomed for failure. There's plenty of houses, I mean, plenty of rundown houses in that neighborhood all through, like, let's say, Port to Airport Road to Agnes to, you know, Horn. There's a lot of places around there, and I was really excited when I saw people coming in and rebuilding on these older lots, these older houses. I was like, now that's going to improve our neighborhood. Something like that is great. Mimic the lots, the housing that's around you, But jamming everything in there like that, to me, that's a failure from the word go. Like I
Chairman,
say,
I don't think the timer is working.
Yeah,
Just saying.
and thank you, Mr. Suarez.
Oh.
Was that about all your comments?
pretty much so, pretty much so. I just wanted to say, you know, whoever's doing the rest of that housing projects, Thanksgiving homes, or whoever, to me, they get a thumbs up from me, but this project, I don't care for.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Suarez.
Okay.
And we typically, you went a little bit over. I'm not sure exactly how much because we have a 3-minute timer.
Yeah, I was waiting for a beep.
But it's not functioning properly. Ruth, have you tested it? It looks like it reset over there. It says 0 now.
Oh, sorry about that.
If he needs more time, he can take my time.
No, I'm
because
through.
Everything he said is what I was going to say.
Okay,
My
and
brother and sisters, and we live on that, I live on that street as well.
I appreciate that, and we've done that in the past too as well. If everybody kind of has the same argument, you know, if you just say everything that he said, and then if you have anything to add, that's different. But it sounds like y'all are mostly concerned with the density and its congruence to the neighboring properties, and obviously being a firefighter, the street width.
Thank you for your time.
Sure.
I just wanted to add, this is just general information, but it goes to one of the comments that was made. Nothing gets approved here, we're a recommending body, so it'll go to council, but even if the zoning gets approved, things like fire issues, fire protection, drainage, anything like that is gonna be a design issue, so that doesn't get, none of that gets approved with the zoning, so no matter what gets approved or not approved with the zoning, they still have to go through, submit their engineering plans, and have that reviewed by the city and get it approved, so those things will be addressed at the next stage.
Thank you. Ms. Gloria Suarez, did you want to come up and add anything?
No, sir, I think everything's okay. It's just that, the word out there is that you're gonna put 32 houses on that lot, and that's just ridiculous.
Chair,
Said you go down that road.
Yeah, ma'am, if you're going to make comments, we have to ask you to come to the front and state your name and address. Sorry.
My name is Gloria Suarez, and I live at 613 Osage. And the word out there is that they're going to put 30 to 32 houses on that lot. And I'm very concerned also about the parking. There are a lot of homes on our street that have several cars, and you'll see them parked along the street, and which is okay for now. But when you add that many houses, you're going to have a man and a wife that probably has 2 cars. Then you have your teenager, they're going to want a car, and that overflow is going to come on to Osage. But my main concern is, like my brother said, if there's a fire or an emergency, that road or that little street that y'all going to put on there is going to be too small for any fire engine or ambulance or emergency vehicle to pass through, especially if cars are parked on that road already. So that's my main concern.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, now we have Josephine Garcia. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Josephine Garcia, 661 Osage Street. I've been there for a long time, since I was little. So I saw a big empty space, a lot of mesquite trees, and then they built Lozano Elementary and was there for a long time. I came and went back to school and everything. And I was sorry they tore it down, but now it is an empty space. There's a lot of birds there, even parrots. We've seen those. Sunshine, clouds, everything. What is it going to do for the environment? Maybe later on, I don't know if the district sold it or not, but later on, you get more enrollment, and then schools are getting crowded and tight, and they have to end up, looking for another, because that happened with Zavala and Ella Barnes. They had to tear up one school and then move everybody over here, and I taught at Zavala for many years, and we were working in a school that was a junior high before. So, they had to find, and they tore it down anyway. But anyway, they have moved to the other side of the block. So I don't know what's going to happen as far as school enrollment. If there's going to be a big housing project there are going to be a lot of kids. They're going to be needing, more classroom space and everything. My main concern, and I agree with what Israel said, it's the fire thing. I had a fire in my home about 10 years ago or so. The fire engines couldn't get there enough, and it's a wide enough street. And then the thing wasn't working. The fire hydrant was out. So they wasted time looking for a fire hydrant that worked. And this might not be included in that.
3 minutes, Chairman.
I've got a timer going.
Okay.
You still have 35
Just
seconds.
a little bit more. The traffic is another issue. Right now, there's a lot of traffic coming from Baldwin, Morgan, because that's where the main, they meet there. And so we're getting traffic that, they drive pretty fast and everything. It's a beautiful street. But I'm concerned about the traffic. And they're trying to get to the other, I'm not very good at all this zoning and everything, but they try to get to the other streets that are not open to Baldwin and Morgan. So ours is a street that they use as a passageway, and they go pretty fast sometimes. So I'm concerned about the traffic. The congestion is going to increase. And I'm not looking forward to that, I'm concerned about the children that maybe go out there to play, walking their dog or whatever. A dog has run over, has been run over because there were some cars parked on the street. And of course, the dog got loose or something.
Okay,
But-
thank you, Ms. Garcia. We've got to move on. I
All right,
appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank
And I'm
you.
sorry, I didn't say very much, but
It's okay. All right, now we've got Ernestina Segura. Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Ernestina Segura. My address is on the other side, 671 Rosewood. And I agree with, I also grew up there, and I'm back again in the neighborhood. I agree with everything that has been said before, but that, Mr. Suarez and Josephine Garcia. My other concern is because my backyard will be towards the apartments. And I'm just afraid of, I'm the one that wrote about loitering or, that they might, accidentally start throwing trash and stuff into my yard, So, like I said, I don't have that much to say about it because I am in agreement with what they said about the fire truck and all that, the fire concerns and all that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you
Okay.
so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Segura. Rosie Garcia. And please state your name and address for the record.
Rosie Garcia, 669 Rosewood, and I live next door, or my house is next door to my cousin, 671 Rosewood. Again, we're on the other side of the fence. Basically, the concerns, at the moment, I'm not living at my house, but the concerns are that if, basically what Mr. Suarez said, his sister said, Josephine said, it will be too crowded. It's nice that they want to build houses, but it seems like too many houses, too many people, more problems. I mean, people fight and, you know, people park everywhere they want to park. And why not, instead of making it houses, make it a nature park or something with hiking trails, tree-lined hiking trails or walking trails, a separate bike place for people to ride their bikes. Just keep it with nature, not add more houses to the neighborhood. I mean, I think too many people will cause more problems, in addition to the parking space and everything that they have said. That's, you know, I would say it's not a good idea. Because once you put all those houses in there, it's gonna be really crowded. And, you know, just add to nature and make a park, you know, make it nice where people can go walking and, you know, just, you know, for the afternoon with family. There's a park in the south side where they have this kind of different bars, exercise bars, and it's a really nice park. I do not remember the name of the park, but it's really nice, and it's out on the south. It's on the south side, and it's, you know, it has all these kind of different exercise bars that they go into different levels of exercise. Something like that would be nice also. You know, make it a nice, pretty park, trees and what have you now. That's it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Garcia. Okay, is there anybody from the public besides the applicant that would like to speak on item number 8? All right, with that, I'll invite the applicants to come up and speak. Please state your name and address.
My name is Gary Alsup. I'm the CEO of the Housing Authority and Thanksgiving Homes. My address is 4242 Gulf Breeze. I am glad I'm not in your position tonight. You guys get to make the hard decisions here about what's the best and highest use of this property. Thanksgiving Homes is a nonprofit affiliate of the Housing Authority, and Thanksgiving Homes builds single-family homes across the city. We have built around 110 of these houses across the city, and this is actually our second attempt in a what I would call a small subdivision. We put 10 of these houses on Shelley Street, right across from Del Mar, about a year ago. These houses, it sounds like they are very compact and they are wedged in there together, but I think if you look at the plan, you'll see that there is quite a bit of space, especially in the front yards, that we're trying to make it a very open area. I've heard a couple of concerns that I wanted to address that have been mentioned. One is safety. I can tell you that Thanksgiving Homes wants to make sure that these are very safe homes, and if there's a issue that the road's not quite wide enough for the fire trucks, that's really not an issue. We are happy to make sure that whatever needs to happen there happens. So, the other thing that I heard was some concerns about parking. Each of these homes has a 2-car driveway, and they're designed to be pushed back a little bit from perhaps more so than one would expect from the street, which will give more off-street parking available. So will there be people parked on the street? Most likely, just like any other neighborhood, that's going to be some, but each house will have at least 2 parking spots available, so that should help with the issue. The other was, I heard the term project and apartment, and I want to make sure that folks recognize that these are not apartments, and they're not rental houses as well. Thanksgiving Homes builds these and offers them for sale to the public. Now, Thanksgiving Home keeps 25 to 30% of the homes normally across our portfolio, so that it's a mixture of home ownership and single-family homes and of single-family renters. So it's a combination of folks. And as far as trash and concerns like that it's going to get run down, I don't believe that would be any more likely than any other new subdivision you have going in. I think that that homeowners do a really good job of keeping their houses nice, and I believe that you'll also see that Thanksgiving homes and the rental homes that we have, you will not be able to tell which one is a rental home and which one is owned by a homeowner. So I think you'll be very pleased with that. Again, I'll wrap up, and I'll be glad to answer any technical questions. Our engineer's here, so he can answer any technical questions that you might have. But if I can just leave two things in your mind, one is safety, and we want to make sure that if there's a safety issue with the road, we're happy to address that. Secondly, in terms of upkeep and traffic and density, I think you'll be very pleased with what comes out. So if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer those.
Okay, questions for the applicant. I got Vice Chairman York's light on.
Yeah, can you go back to the slide with the layout?
I'll let you drive.
I'll do my best.
Yeah, so the lots that are proposed they've got double frontage there and back up to Osage. Just wanted to ask if you might be open to something that I think could potentially, make the neighbors feel better, because we all know people are going to park on the street. I see that your development, the street that you're going to build is actually wider than the required street, so it's wider than what Osage is, which actually gives more room for parking and then fits a fire truck through, so that's great. But these homes that back up and have access to Osage, would you be open to maybe restricting access to Osage so that you can kind of discourage those residents from parking on Osage so that that's left for the residents that live there?
I'm not sure that this shows well, but our intention is to put a fence around those houses, so around the back. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of parking on Osage to get access to the street. In order to do that, they'd have to walk all the way around the block to get in there.
And that's what I'm asking. I don't figure you're going to have a back driveway. I mean, some kind of restriction that doesn't allow somebody to put a gate in so they can park on Osage and walk into their back door. I know it's not much, but it's at least something that would discourage them, because then they have to walk all the way around the block. So
I don't have any objection to having that type of restriction off of, because it's our intent to do exactly what you're suggesting, to limit access to Osage Street.
It's the only question I had. Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Lerma?
I just have a comment, not a question, to Commissioner York. Question that you asked about the fence and no gate in the back. If we require that for this house development, then I expect that we require that for every development that is put in Corpus Christi, and everyone that builds a fence cannot put a back gate on their backyard. That just can't happen. I mean, I think we're putting a burden on the developer, because if we do that, we need to do that fair throughout the entire city of Corpus Christi. All the developers that are developing these homes and they put fences and all that, that's gonna have to be a requirement, because we're setting precedents to something like that. So, I mean, I just have a concern about moving forward and asking this applicant to do that same thing.
I think the difference here, Commissioner Lerma, is that this is a PUD, and it's already a vast deviation from whatever the design standards are for the particular, base zoning, which in this case is RS6. So it kind of on these PUDs, the way I've experienced them over the years is all bets are off. And, because everything is changed from the base zoning. It's kind of like a special permit in a way. And so, I mean, I agree with you that things should be universal across the board, but if things were to be universal across the board, then these would be 6,000 square foot lots. So
that's not true, because this city has 4.5 lots.
Right, but this current base zoning is RS6, which would be 6,000 square foot lots.
Yes, sir.
And so this is to me, PUDs are kind of like special permits are to commercial properties where there's multiple deviations.
Well,
you're
I'm just
keeping-
saying, I'm just bringing to our attention that we need to be careful.
Right.
Of what we're asking for, because this could come back and bite us. Is
No.
what I'm saying. We need to be very careful with this.
If I could just add that in in majority of these cases, there are going to be individual homeowners as well. So I can speak for Thanksgiving Homes as a developer that we don't have a problem doing that, but just to point out that these are going to be offered for sale for residents of our community, and you know, I want to make sure that this commission recognizes that any requirement that you put on this is going to affect some future homeowner and what they can do with their property. So just
Right, and
an observation.
I'm totally, so being somebody that lives in a house that backs to airline, you know, it's helpful for people to have access to gates so that they can weed eat behind their property and maintain the right-of-way for the city. So I think the more important, there was another slide that showed the driveways.
You're driving again.
Here we go.
So part of your deviation is for, I'm sorry, I just got one question. Part of the deviation, no, you can keep your light on, I'll call on you here in a second. Part of the deviation was the 70% coverage of the street yard as opposed to 50%. And I assume that's to be able to fit the size driveway that you're talking about. And based on that, what is your, you have a 25 foot driveway length?
I'm going to ask my engineer for the specifics.
So what we have there is, it varies in there. We have some that are 25, we also have some that are in the 30 to 35 areas. So we do have more setback.
But it's a
in that front.
minimum of 25?
Yes.
Okay. Because based on what I'm seeing here, if this is representative of the 70% impervious coverage on the street yard, there's not going to be a whole lot of room for on-street parking just based on the distances between the driveways. Because most of them are, you know, piano keyed, you know, all the way down alongside each other. So, and then I'm noticing on some of these narrower lots, are they sharing driveways with their neighbors?
There's, when we designed it out, is that driveways will be up against each other.
Okay.
So
there's just not a line.
Not a line there, yes.
Delineating which whose is whose. Okay. All right, Commissioner Salazar Garza.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Is there a sidewalk over there, behind there on Osage Street?
Yes, there is a sidewalk along Osage.
There's already a sidewalk there. Okay, and the street, you said you developed one by Del Mar,
Yes.
correct? Okay, what was the street size you built there?
We didn't put a street in.
That's right.
The street was already there.
Oh,
So
okay, you just
but we
redeveloped.
put 10 houses along there, and we put those on 40, 35-foot lots? 30-foot lots. So these are going to be, those houses were all two-story houses. These were going to be a combination of two-story and one-story houses.
Okay.
And they're based on the 40-foot lot size.
I haven't gone by there. I was just curious to know just how, I would like to see, you know, I would have liked to seen it to see how,
Actually, I think this is going to have a lot more room in the front yard than what the others did. The others, it was a shallow lot, and so there wasn't a lot of room to do much with them. So that's where they're all two-story houses. But they do work, and in terms of having room for the barbecues and all those sorts of things, there's certainly room for that in the backyards and front yards, either one.
and to add a little something from our chairman here, when he said that the parking lots were going to be together for 2 units, for two houses.
I think what, if you can correct me, my engineer can correct me if I'm wrong, but what we've tried to do is try to put the driveways as close to one another as we can
There
on
is a
two
line?
sides.
Do you have a
Right,
distinguished line?
there's still a line between them.
Oh,
They're,
okay,
they're not
okay.
shared driveways.
I thought you were doing it all together.
And just to make sure we recognize this, these are all going to be set up to sell as single family, single ownership families. So there's no shared lots, there's no shared drives, it's not an apartment complex, it's not a duplex, it's not any of those things. They're all set up and they will all be individual, single family homes that are available for sale.
Well, I like the fact that you're developing this, because we are in need, dire need of affordable housing. People just can't afford homes anymore. And the price of homes right now, not to add the interest rate, is just harder for a person to own something.
And Thanksgiving Homes is a nonprofit developer, so we're able to sell the homes substantially cheaper than what would otherwise be the case. It's hard to give you a specific number, but oftentimes $25,000 to $35,000 per home cheaper than what it would have been in a more conventional builder relationship. So we're very proud of that. And when we sell the homes, we do require that they be owner occupied. We don't sell them to developers and people that are going to rent the homes out, because we do believe in a mixture of rental and home ownership, but we also recognize that we want to make sure that those rentals stay in very good shape. And one of the other things I wanted to mention is Thanksgiving Homes will be a landlord for about a third of these homes into the future. So in terms of trash being issues and mowing and those sorts of things, Thanksgiving Homes is going to be very integrally engaged, at least in the rental side of those homes. So they're not going to get messed up. And if you go by,
what's the percentage that you rent out?
we typically rent about a third of them and sell about 2/3 of them, 30%, 70%, somewhere in that range.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? I see none. Just for my information, do y'all currently own the property?
Yes, we do. We purchased the property about 6 months ago.
Okay.
It was offered for bid by the school district, and we purchased it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
I just have a couple of comments before we go to a vote. One thing that, because I heard a lot of the questions that you guys have, that the neighbors have, and I feel it incumbent upon me to clarify a few of them. The street width, the city design standards in our infrastructure development plan is 28 foot back to back, from the back of the curb to the back of the curb. And I say this all the time. I give a story that I proved to my wife, because her sister lives on a newly developed street, and she always complains about the street width. But the fact of the matter is, compared to our street, is that nobody parks on the street on our street, and everybody parks on the street on their street. And so that makes streets look a lot narrower, but I pulled a tape measure on it and showed her. I said, this one's 28 and that one's 28. They're the exact same, and she just growled at me. The other thing I wanted to point out, there was a couple of comments about preserving it for nature and a public park and things like that. I just got to stress that even though probably since it's been an open lot, and I'm sure the kids have enjoyed playing on that open lot and stuff like that, this is private property. It's privately owned property. And so any ideas, though they may be great for nature trails and parks and stuff like that, this is not city-owned property. The other thing is that as planning commissioners, as Michael or Vice Chairman York pointed out, there's a lot of concerns that are all valid concerns with regards to, fire and safety and, infrastructure and I'm surprised there wasn't a drainage question, because that's usually one that pops up. But all of those things have to get worked out at a permit level. And the only thing that we're here to decide, and we're actually not the final decider, anything that gets, decisions that gets made here will be recommended to City Council, and they will have to vote again. So this isn't the end of this, and if this doesn't go the way some of y'all like, you'll be re-notified for the City Council meeting as well. But there is a very huge need in this community for affordable housing. There's a lot of, many of you grew up in your homes, and you've returned back, and you still live in the same house that you grew up in, and that's fantastic, and I love that. But that's not an opportunity that's afforded to everybody. And so there is a need for affordable housing, and I appreciate the things that Thanksgiving Homes and the Housing Authority do to try to address that need. But everything has to be safe, and everything has to be done correctly, so that way there's minimal impact to the nature of the neighborhood. So those are my comments. Commissioner or Vice Chairman York, you had a question for staff?
I know earlier I brought up the gate thing, and I will back off of that, but it's very common on these configurations that plats will say no driveway access onto the side street or the other street. Is that, I just want to ask Steph, is that already in here that they don't get? I know they have a plan, they show where the driveways are, but is there something on the PUD that says no driveway access is allowed on Osage or Aztec?
Bria Whitmire, Development Services Engineer. I just want to point out that the requirement for the driveway, you're not allowed more than one driveway. So they're going to be provided the driveway at the front. They wouldn't be allowed to have a second driveway on the rear, regardless.
Does the site, I know the site plan on a PUD, you have to follow that, but does that lock in their driveway location too?
Yeah, the layout, yes.
Okay, so we don't need any note like that, it's
Yeah,
already
the
there.
driveway requirements would remain.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions for staff? I see none. I will open it for any motion.
I make a motion that we accept staff's approval on item 8.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Again, like I said, we're just a recommending body, and so you'll be re-noticed and of the date of the city council meeting, and
They will be renoticed for city council, which is slated for September 19th.
September 19th. And at that time, city council will be meeting at the RTA building, is that correct?
Yes, they will be meeting at the RTA building.
So just so y'all know, on the 19th, these council chambers will be under renovations, and council meetings will be held across the street that way, if I'm pointing in the right direction, at the RTA building. So thank you all. Moving on, director's report.
Good evening, Nina Nix-Mendez, Assistant Director. Just wanted to remind you that our next Planning Commission meeting will take place at City Hall in the 6th floor conference room. So that'll be on August 23rd, and as the chair stated, our council meetings in September will be at the RTA building. I did provide you a handout related to the Capital Improvement Advisory Committee, and you'll see the dates listed in red. Those are the Capital Improvement Advisory Committee meetings. They are taking place at the Corpus Christi Museum of Science and History Water Garden Room. You'll also notice the schedule for the public hearings that will be upcoming. Please note on September 20th, a public hearing before Planning Commission, as well as November 15th, related to land use master plan projects, as well as proposed impact fees. Again, all of these meetings are open to the public, and we do have schedules posted on our department website as well. I also wanted to remind you about the upcoming Development Services Task Force meeting, which will take place on August 18th at 9 a.m., and that will also be at the 6th floor conference room of the City Hall building. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Will there be tacos?
Well, we can only hope.
All right, any other future agenda items or anything that the commission would like to have added? See none. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.